Hey everyone, Aaron here. Welcome back to another anime review. Today we look at episode 13 or episode 1 of season 2 of Bungou Stray Dogs. Now, I say episode 13 because Crunchyroll has it labeled as episode 13, so I presume they're going to put it up with all the other series of the first season and all that. So I presume that's why they're doing that. But it is labeled as episode 13. I'm going to label it as episode 1 when I do the review and all that because that's, I think, easier for people to understand. But anyways, let's talk about what happened because this was a very good start for, I think, this next season of the show. You know, honestly, I was wondering how they would continue from last episode of the first season. I was wondering, were they going to continue off with that, or were they going to continue with some comedy aspects? You know, what was going to be the first episode of the second season? What I like they did was they actually set up a whole different realm of what I thought would happen. Instead, going back to not only before, you know, the events of season 1, but way back to when Dazai was working as the Port Mafia's, you know, one of the big leaders there. So what's interesting is we meet two new characters besides Dazai, of course. We have Oda, who apparently has the ability called Flawless, which I could explain later, but I'll explain it now because, you know, I feel like kind of getting out of the way, which is his ability allows him to see several seconds into the future. He can apparently control how far he can see. He can see maybe up to a couple seconds, anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 seconds, so that's very interesting. We also meet Ango, who's also going to be one of the center characters, I think, for this little arc that they're going to have for the second season. Ango, his ability was mentioned, but I do not believe they talked about it too much. What we do know about Anga, though, is that apparently he's very smart. He's more so a number cruncher. You know, he deals with information. He's the information broker of Port Mafia. So, you know, they know that about him. And of course, we're reintroduced to Dazai, in case you missed him. I know a lot of ladies miss Dazai. I mean, overall, he's a really cool character, so I can't really, you know, fault the girls for loving Dazai so much. But, you know, it's interesting to show this part because what they show here is camaraderie between these three characters. This is very important, I feel, for the setup of the season because we see that they really are close. You know, they're sharing a drink, they're talking with one another, they're really enjoying the bar life right now as their whole day was kind of apparently very stressful as they dealt with various things that happened internally in the organization and also externally. But what's interesting though is that we shift away from this because we do see that I'm going to presume that was Oda speaking as the narrator for this episode. He says that everything shifts because Dazai claims at the end of this little kind of beginning moment that they may not be able to hang out together to forever. And Oda says that, excuse me, by the way. Oda says, oh, you know what, and it's funny you said that because apparently someone dies from these three people. So we know Dazai didn't die. We know that. Unless they mean metaphorically, which, you know, they could do that too. I'm not saying that they're not mean by that, but, you know, it's either Oda, of course, or Ango, so I'm very curious what that's going to be. Now, we see the story go a little bit ahead, so it goes to the next day, I presume, where we see that Oda is actually supposedly meet with the main leader of Port Mafia, somewhere that apparently no lower classes are ever allowed to go. It's a big, large building. And when he meets him here, he learns about a nefarious plot going on where apparently someone is doing some horrible things within inside the Port Mafia, and he wants Oda to take care of it. Now, what this scene sets up is we see that Oda has his own little mission ahead of him, but we also see that we learn a little bit about Oda. Apparently, even though he carries a gun, and we see that quickly when he kind of does a cool, I want to say, flash of his back with the holster in the back, we learn that that gun has never been used to kill anyone. So that's very interesting. So I presume Oda is more of a kind of fighter in the sense of making sure that he prevents death, but I'm very curious why he's never done that because he actually avoids answering the leader's question completely. Now, we shift gazes again to Dazai at a crime scene where, well, more so an internal crime scene. I put that in air quotes because this is where three Port Mafia members, apparently of a decent rank, were found dead in the river and they're pulled up. And Dazai right away starts thinking, okay, what is the reason for this? And of course, using his kind of keen detective abilities that we saw in the first season. But I almost want to say here we see that he really has been holding back a lot in the first season because in the first season he's been comedic. He knows what he's talking about, of course, and he knows how to do things. But he's always been holding back, it seems like, especially if you see from here where he talks and he's, you know, like on point. He's almost as good as that one detective on their squad, so I'm very curious about that. But we learned that apparently he knows that something's going on within the group, and this looks like an internal job, not an external one. Now, we go to Oda, who's trying to find Ango because apparently he was set to find him. And he goes to his apartment and is not cool. His hotel, excuse me, he's staying at. And he finds a briefcase which contains something inside of it, of course. And also then is attacked by some type of sniper where we see he has to start going for the run. And when he's on the run, he calls up Dazai to tell him, hey, listen, I need your help. They're coming. So Dazai, of course, goes into action. And what happens essentially there is we see a sequence of him having a shootout essentially in a alleyway, but of course he doesn't kill anyone there, but Dazai shows up, kills everyone there, and it looks like this is the end for that part right there. Now what's interesting though is that we have Dazai opening the crate finally and discovering inside this little box a gun. Now prior to this, he was explaining that he felt that this gun that they have, because they're all carrying it, the other two soldiers that were killed in the alleyway were carrying this very old archaic gun. And what's funny about this is Dazai presumes that means that they're part of another group that was introduced into the episode called Mimic, which apparently looks like they're trying to go against Port Mafia. So that's very interesting. What is Mimic exactly? I don't know. I feel like they've mentioned that maybe in the first season. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like that's come up somewhere. So I do apologize. You guys can put in the comments if you do know already. If those no spoilers if you are ahead somehow over this. But I'm just saying that I think they did say something like that in the first season. I believe so. But we do then all of a sudden see one of the soldiers get up and try to shoot at Dazai. Oh, and I forgot to mention, actually, let me go back a little bit here with this. Dazai says that this gun inside this crate has now linkage to Ango, because apparently Ango is carrying it, of course. Now, Oda wants to presume that right away, oh, that means Ango must be part of working with them. Dazai goes, well, I don't think the gun is conclusive enough to prove that he is working with them. However, and then he goes into explaining little details here and there where he says, for example, Ango apparently lied about going to a meeting the other day. He apparently was out meeting someone individually. He didn't go down to a deal. You can see from the contents when he showed his bag that it wasn't done in a certain way that thus caused Dazai to realize he's lying about something. So that was interesting. But when this guy gets up with the gun, Dazai goes right up to him and goes, hey, listen, you can kill me if you want. Because, of course, as we know, Dazai is the crazy suicide nut that he is. He wants to die, so he goes up to him and he's like, just kill me. You can pull the trigger. It'd be so easy, so fast. And he does pull the trigger, but misses because he's not using his dominant hand. And luckily, Oda actually is able to call all of his troops to shoot the guy and kill him finally permanently. Now, what's interesting, though, is that we learn, of course, like I said, we learn that Dazai knows that something's up, and the main point of this episode is that now it's a search to find Ango, because apparently he knows something, and he is crucial to this piece of this puzzle. So overall, very solid episode. I mean, honestly, this was a very good start, I think, to the second season. I know some people might be disappointed that it wasn't, a continuation per se of the first season, more so a kind of backtrack. But I think that's kind of cool because, I wanted to see something slightly different from Bungou Stray Dogs. And I think that getting more information out of Dazai, who is one of the big characters of the show, getting some of his past out and seeing how he, dealt with the Port Mafia, how he was there, is very intriguing, I think. So I'm looking forward to this. I know I have a feeling that this is only going to be like probably 1 or 2 episode type thing, and then they'll probably shift back to the current time period, or maybe it'll be even more several episodes. But I'm just curious, what do you guys think? Put in the comments below. Tell me what you all thought of the episode. If do you agree with me, disagree, whatever. And as always, guys and girls, if you like this video, please subscribe, please share the video. You know the whole nine. I will talk to you all later. Have a blessed day, everyone. Bye bye.